Zoom in, James whispered at the screen, heart pounding. Why is she holding my son like that, and why is he smiling? Before we go any further, I need to ask you something. If you could watch every moment to protect someone you love, would you? Or would you trust? Tell me in the comments. And if you believe love sometimes hides in unexpected places, subscribe. This story doesn't end where you think it will. Now let me take you back to how the cameras got there in the first place. The Whitmore house sat on 3 quiet acres in Westchester County, just 40 minutes north of Manhattan. White brick, black shutters, floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over a perfectly trimmed lawn. It looked peaceful. It wasn't. Inside, the house was silent except for the low hum of medical equipment in the living room. Noah Whitmore sat in his wheelchair near the fireplace, a blanket over his legs even though it wasn't cold. He was 10 years old. Dark hair. Sharp eyes that noticed everything. His legs hadn't moved in 2 years. The accident happened on I-95. Rain. A truck that swerved. A split second that changed everything. James Whitmore remembered every detail. He had been driving. That memory never left him. Dad. Noah called softly. James stepped out of his home office, phone still in hand. Yeah, buddy. Can we go outside? James glanced at the backyard, then at the security app open on his screen. It's a little chilly, he replied. Maybe later. Noah nodded. He always nodded. That was the problem. James built his fortune investing in tech startups. Smart decisions. Calculated risks. He trusted data more than people. And after the accident, he trusted almost no one. Not nurses. Not therapists. Not drivers. And especially not strangers. Which made hiring a live-in Maid feel like swallowing glass. But he couldn't run a company and manage Noah's full-time care alone. That's how Elena Ramirez entered their lives. She arrived with 1 suitcase and a reference letter from a family in Connecticut. Early 30s. Calm voice. No drama. She didn't talk much about her past. James didn't ask. He watched. The first day, she knelt in front of Noah instead of standing over him. Hi, she said gently. I'm Elena. I make very good grilled cheese sandwiches. Noah blinked at her. Better than Dad? She leaned in slightly. Way better. Noah smiled. It was small, but it was real. James saw it from the hallway, and something in his chest tightened. That night, after Noah was asleep, James sat in his office staring at his laptop. The house felt too quiet. Too fragile. He opened a security website he'd bookmarked weeks ago. Indoor cameras. Motion alerts. Cloud storage. If something ever happened again, he wouldn't miss it. He ordered 6. They arrived 2 days later. James installed them himself. Living room. Kitchen. Hallway. Noah's bedroom. He told himself it was for safety. For accountability. For peace of mind. He didn't tell Elena. Not yet. The first few days of footage were boring. Elena cooking. Cleaning. Helping Noah with homework. Physical therapy exercises. Professional. Appropriate. Still, James watched every night from his office. Zooming in. Rewinding. Looking for something wrong. Anything. Guilt does that. It makes you believe danger hides in ordinary moments. One afternoon, James stayed late in Manhattan for meetings. Midtown traffic crawled. His phone buzzed with motion alerts from home. He opened the app while sitting in the back of his black SUV. Camera, living room. Noah sat in his wheelchair near the window. Elena was beside him on the floor, holding a book. James turned up the volume. I hate this chair, Noah muttered. Elena closed the book slowly. I know, she said softly. You don't. A pause. You're right, she admitted. I don't. But I know what it feels like when your body doesn't do what you want. James leaned closer to the screen. What did that mean? Noah looked at her. Like what? She hesitated, then gently placed his hand over her own wrist. My brother, she said quietly. He got sick when we were kids. He couldn't walk either. James felt something shift. Elena never mentioned a brother. Noah's face softened. Did he get better? Another pause. No, she said. But he was still funny. Still stubborn. Still him. The SUV stopped at a red light. James didn't breathe. Elena moved closer to Noah, adjusting the blanket on his legs. Then Noah did something he hadn't done in months. He leaned forward. Into her. And she held him. Not awkwardly. Not professionally. But gently. Like someone who understood. Zoom in, James whispered, heart pounding. Why is she holding my son like that, and why is he smiling? On the screen, Noah's face changed. The tightness was gone. He looked lighter. Alive. And for the first time in 2 years, James realized something terrifying. His son smiled more when he wasn't being watched by him. But what James didn't know yet was that the next piece of footage would force him to question not just Elena, but himself. James didn't go back to the office the next morning. He stayed home. Not openly. Not in the living room. He worked from his glass-walled office at the end of the hallway, laptop open, security feed running silently on the second monitor. Westchester was quiet that Tuesday. School buses sighed to a stop down the street. A lawn crew worked 2 houses over. The world looked normal. Inside, James watched. Elena moved through the kitchen, tying her dark hair into a loose knot. She packed Noah's therapy bag. Water bottle. Resistance bands. A small stress ball shaped like a dinosaur. She moved with care. Not rushed. Not distracted. Noah wheeled himself in. Are we going out today? He asked. If your dad says yes, she replied gently. James felt that. If your dad says yes. Control. He muted the conference call playing through his earbuds and stepped into the hallway. You're going somewhere? He asked. Elena turned, surprised but composed. Physical therapy at 11. Then I thought maybe the park. It's sunny. James glanced at the window. It was sunny. Early fall light. Leaves just starting to turn. The park, he repeated. There's an accessible path, she said. I checked. He didn't like that she'd checked without asking him. Or maybe he didn't like that she'd thought ahead. I can take him, James said. Noah's shoulders shifted slightly. Almost invisible. But James saw it. It's okay, Dad, Noah said quickly. Elena knows the exercises. Knows. The word scraped against something inside him. I'll come, James decided. The park in Rye was 10 minutes away. Smooth pavement. A small pond. Moms pushing strollers. Retirees walking dogs. James stayed a few steps behind as Elena pushed Noah's chair along the path. You're hovering, she said quietly without turning around. I'm supervising. She glanced back at him. Calm. Not defensive. He's safe. I know. But he didn't. That was the problem. Noah laughed at something Elena whispered. A real laugh. Loud enough that a woman jogging past smiled at them. James couldn't remember the last time he heard that sound at home. They stopped near the water. Elena knelt to Noah's level again. Ready to try standing braces for a minute? She asked softly. James stiffened. That wasn't cleared, he said. It was, she replied. Dr. Feldman emailed yesterday. He hadn't read it yet. Elena carefully locked the wheelchair and helped Noah adjust the braces. Slow. Patient. Tell me if it hurts, she said. I will. James stepped forward, ready to intervene. But then, Noah pushed himself up. Shaky. Supported. 4-5 seconds, he stood. James felt his throat close. Elena didn't rush him. She didn't panic. She just stayed there. Hands ready but not grabbing. That's it, she whispered. You're doing it. Noah dropped back into the chair, breathing hard. Did you see that, Dad? He asked. James nodded. Yeah, I saw. But what he really saw was this. His son trying harder for her. On the drive home, silence filled the SUV. Elena stared out the window. Noah scrolled on his tablet. James gripped the steering wheel. That night, after they were asleep, he opened the camera footage again. Living room. Kitchen. Hallway. Everything normal. Then. Noah's bedroom. Elena sat on the edge of the bed while Noah talked. I don't want Dad watching me all the time, Noah said quietly. James froze. I feel like I can't mess up. Elena's voice stayed soft. He's scared. I know, Noah said. But I'm the one in the chair. The words hit harder than any accusation. James leaned back slowly. He hadn't meant to make his son feel watched. He meant to keep him safe. There's a difference. But fear doesn't know the difference. The next morning, James called his security company. Remove the cameras from my son's bedroom, he said. A step. Small. But not enough. When he walked into the kitchen, Elena stood at the counter making oatmeal. She looked up. We need to talk, he said. Her posture shifted slightly. Guarded now. About the cameras, she asked. His stomach dropped. You knew. She held his gaze. I saw the lens reflection in the hallway mirror. Silence stretched between them. You didn't say anything, he said. It's your house, she replied. Your son. The calm in her voice wasn't surrender. It was dignity. I installed them for protection, he said. From what? She asked quietly. He didn't answer. Because he didn't know anymore. Outside, a delivery truck rolled past. Somewhere in the house, Noah's wheelchair moved across hardwood floors. I would never hurt him, she added. Not angry. Just clear. He believed her. That was what scared him. Because if she wasn't the threat, then maybe the only thing standing between his son and real freedom was him. And James had no idea how to protect his child from that. The cameras in Noah's bedroom came down that afternoon. James stood on a step stool and removed them himself. Elena didn't watch. She stayed in the kitchen, helping Noah with math homework at the long marble island. Westchester was quiet again. A crisp breeze moved through the trees outside. The house felt different without the red recording light in the hallway. Not safer. Just exposed. That night, James didn't open the security app. He poured a glass of bourbon instead and sat alone in the living room. The fireplace flickered low. The wheelchair ramp by the front door caught his eye. 2 years ago, that ramp had felt like defeat. Now it felt like distance. Elena walked in softly, folding a small load of laundry. You don't have to do that, he said. It's part of the job. She placed Noah's t-shirts neatly on the couch. There was a pause. I'm sorry, James said. The words felt stiff in his mouth. Unused. For the cameras, he added. She looked at him. Calm. Direct. I understand fear, she said. But being watched all the time changes a person. He nodded slowly. I didn't know how else to protect him. You can't protect him from everything, she replied gently. Especially not from living. The sentence stayed in the air long after she walked back down the hallway. The next Saturday, James did something he hadn't done in months. He canceled his golf game in Greenwich. Instead, he loaded Noah's wheelchair into the back of his SUV and drove toward Manhattan. Where are we going? Noah asked. You'll see. They crossed the George Washington Bridge, traffic thick but moving. The skyline rose ahead of them. James parked near Central Park and came around to help Noah out. Elena stepped out from the passenger side. You invited her? Noah asked, surprised. James hesitated. I thought she might want to come. Elena gave Noah a small smile. I've never seen the park in the fall. They rolled along the wide paved path. Street musicians played near Bethesda Terrace. Tourists took photos. Kids chased pigeons. Life moved everywhere. Noah's eyes were wide. Can we go closer to the fountain? He asked. James looked at the small incline ahead. It wasn't steep, but it wasn't flat either. Elena noticed his hesitation. He's got this, she said quietly. James swallowed. Noah pushed forward. The wheels moved slowly up the incline. His arms strained. James almost stepped in. But he didn't. Elena stayed beside Noah, close enough to help, far enough to let him try. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sounds were wheels against pavement, distant horns, wind moving through trees. Noah reached the top. breathing hard, grinning. James felt something inside him shift. Not fear. Pride. They sat near the fountain afterward. Water sprayed into the air, catching sunlight. A little girl nearby fed crumbs to birds. "I like it here," Noah said. "Me too," Elena replied. James watched them. Watched the way she listened. The way she never rushed him. The way she treated his son like a whole person, not a fragile thing. "You don't have to stay forever," James said suddenly. Elena looked at him. "I know," she answered. "That's not what I meant." A long pause. "Then what did you mean?" He struggled for the right words. "I don't want you here just because I'm paying you." Her expression softened slightly. "Why do you want me here?" she asked. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Because the answer wasn't simple anymore. It wasn't about cooking. Or cleaning. Or therapy schedules. It was about the way the house felt lighter when she walked through it. It was about the way his son laughed more. It was about the way she looked at him, not like a millionaire. Not like a man who failed behind the wheel 2 years ago. Just a father trying. That night, after they returned home, James sat alone in his office. The camera feeds were still active in the kitchen and living room. He stared at the screen. Elena was helping Noah brush his teeth. They were laughing about something small. Then Noah said quietly, "Do you think Dad's happier lately?" Elena paused. "I think he's trying," she said. "And is that enough?" She crouched to his level. "It's a start." James leaned back in his chair. For the first time, he turned off the camera feed before they left the room. Not because he didn't care, but because he was learning to let go. What he didn't realize was that letting go of control would soon force him to make a choice far bigger than removing a few cameras. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. James was in Manhattan, 30 floors above Midtown, sitting through a board meeting he barely heard. His phone vibrated. Elena. He stepped into the hallway and answered immediately. "Is Noah okay?" There was noise in the background. Wind. Traffic. "He's okay," she said, but her voice was tight. "We're at White Plains Hospital. He fell during therapy." James felt the floor tilt. "I'm on my way." The drive back to Westchester felt longer than ever. Every red light felt personal. Every slow driver felt like an enemy. When he reached the hospital, he saw them in the emergency waiting area. Noah sat in his wheelchair, quiet but alert. Elena stood beside him. James dropped to his knees in front of his son. "Are you hurt?" "No," Noah said. "Just scraped my arm." James looked at Elena. "What happened?" Her shoulders stayed straight. He wanted to try the parallel bars without full support. "I was right there." He lost balance. "You let him?" James asked, voice rising. "I didn't let him," she replied calmly. "I encouraged him." In what world is that safe? In a world where he learns what he can do. The words hit hard. "You had one job," James said. Her expression shifted then. Not angry. Hurt. "My job is not to keep him small," she said quietly. A nurse walked past. People glanced over. James stood, pacing once. "You think I'm keeping him small?" "I think you're scared," she answered. "And you're letting that fear make every decision." He felt exposed. Defensive. He fell. He tried. He could have been seriously hurt. He could have stood longer than 5 seconds. Silence fell between them. Noah watched both of them carefully. "Dad," he said softly. "It was my idea." James turned to him. "I wanted to try," Noah continued. "I'm tired of being careful all the time." The words landed deeper than anything Elena had said. James looked at his son's small scrape. A thin line of red along his forearm. He remembered the night of the accident. The hospital lights. The doctors telling him what his son would never do again. He had promised himself right there. No more risks. No more chances. But maybe he had confused risk with growth. The doctor came out moments later. "Everything looks stable," she said. "No fractures. Just a minor strain. He's stronger than you think." Stronger than you think. Those words followed James all the way back to the house. That evening, the Whitmore home felt tense. Noah went to bed early. James stood in the kitchen while Elena washed dishes. "You should look for another placement," he said finally. Her hands stilled. "If that's what you want," she replied, voice steady but softer now. "I can't keep wondering if you're pushing him too far. And I can't keep shrinking him to make you comfortable." The truth sat heavy between them. He looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't reckless. She was brave. And brave scared him. "I care about him," she said. "And I care about this family." Family. The word hit differently coming from her. "I don't want to lose what we've built here," she added. "We." James felt something twist in his chest. He had spent 2 years trying to control every outcome. But control had almost cost him the one person who brought light back into his home. "If you leave," he said quietly, "what happens to him?" She met his eyes. "That depends," she said, "on whether you finally trust him. And maybe whether you trust me." She dried her hands and walked down the hallway. James stood alone in the kitchen. In the corner of the ceiling, a small black camera still blinked in the living room. For the first time, he saw it clearly. Not as protection, but as fear. Upstairs, a door closed softly. And James realized the next choice he made wouldn't just decide who worked in his house. It would decide who he was becoming. James didn't sleep that night. He sat in the living room long after the house went quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the wall clock. In the upper corner of the ceiling, the small black camera blinked red. Watching. He stood, grabbed a chair, and climbed up. For a moment, he hesitated. 2 years of fear sat inside that little device. 2 years of trying to control what couldn't be controlled. He reached up and unplugged it. The red light went dark. The house felt different immediately. Still. Honest. The next morning, sunlight poured through the tall windows overlooking the backyard. Westchester looked peaceful again. Frost clung to the grass. Elena was in the kitchen packing Noah's lunch. James walked in. "We need to talk," he said. She turned slowly. Guarded, but steady. "I took the cameras down," he continued. "All of them." Her eyes flickered slightly. Not surprise. Relief. "I don't want to watch my life anymore," he said. "I want to live in it." Silence settled between them. "Noah fell because he was trying," James went on. "And I punished you for that." "I understand why," she replied softly. "That doesn't make it right." He stepped closer. "You didn't keep him small. I did." The admission hung in the air. In the hallway, Noah's wheelchair rolled across hardwood floors. "Are you firing her?" he called out. James looked toward the sound of his son's voice. Then back at Elena. "No," he said firmly. "I'm not." Noah appeared at the doorway, hopeful. "You're staying," James added, eyes still on Elena. "If you want to." She studied him for a long moment. "On one condition," she said. He nodded. "Name it." "You stop treating him like he's breakable." James swallowed. "And you stop treating yourself like you're to blame," she added. That one hit deeper. He nodded again. "Deal." Noah grinned. "So, park later?" James looked at his son. "Yeah," he said. "Park later." See. Weeks passed. The house changed in small ways. James worked from home more often. Not to watch, but to be present. He sat on the living room floor during therapy sessions. Not directing. Just encouraging. Noah stood longer each time. 10 seconds. 15. Sometimes he fell. Each time, he got back up. And James let him. One Saturday afternoon, they returned to Central Park. The air was cold but bright. The fountain sprayed into the sky like it had before. Noah pushed himself up the same incline again. This time, he didn't look back for permission. He just went. Elena stood beside him. James walked slightly behind. Not hovering. Just there. When Noah reached the top, he turned around. "I did it." James laughed. A full, open laugh he hadn't heard from himself in years. "You did," he said. Elena looked at him then. Not as an employee. Not as someone asking for approval. But as someone standing beside him. "You're different," she said quietly. "I'm trying," he answered. "It's enough." The words echoed what she had told Noah weeks before. A start. They sat on a bench overlooking the water. For a while, no one spoke. The city moved around them. Joggers. Families. Street musicians playing soft jazz. Life, in all its noise and beauty. James turned to her. "I don't want this to just be a job anymore," he said. Her heart seemed to pause in her chest. "This house," he continued. "This family. I don't want to imagine it without you." She held his gaze. "You're sure?" she asked gently. "I'm not afraid of falling anymore," he said. "Not if it means standing for something real." Her hand rested on the bench between them. He placed his over it. Not rushed. Not hidden. Chosen. Across from them, Noah watched with a small knowing smile. "About time," he muttered. They both laughed. The past didn't disappear. The accident still happened. The fear had been real. But love, the quiet, steady kind, had grown in the space where control used to live. And sometimes the thing we think is protecting us is the very thing keeping us from healing. James once hid cameras to watch for danger. Now he looked at the woman beside him and realized the safest place he had ever been was right here, without walls. Do you believe some people come into your life to teach you how to let go? Drop a heart if this story stayed with you. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.